Between the orbit of Saturn and Uranus lives an asteroid with a little name and an even bigger purpose. Before you can move beyond the limitations of your current 3D reality and enter the age of Aquarius, you must cross the Rainbow Bridge, become your own shaman, and heal yourself. You hold the key to the fifth dimension, and you are the medicine. This is the Chronicles of Chyron.
Hello, star people. Thank you for joining me today on Chronicles of Chyron. I'm your host, Chrystopher King. I'm a Chironic healer, shamanic astrologer, ascension guide, and medicine alchemist. And in this space, we dive deep into all things ascension, awakening, astrology, extra dimensionals, plant medicine, and of course, healing. Chyron is an asteroid named after the mythological centaur and is known as the wounded healer in traditional astrology. But in 5D astrology, he is the healer, the shaman, and the rainbow bridge. And as a living embodiment of Chyron, I am here to assist you in bridging the gap between dimensions, tapping out of the false matrix, and into your highest, most divine self. Now, speaking of Chyron, I have a special guest on the show today who, like myself, is a living embodiment of the Chyron archetype in life, but also within her astrology chart. I'm so excited to welcome Jessica. Her name is Jessica Tanselle. She's a medicine woman, shamanic healer, divine channel. Jessica offers sessions, cacao ceremonies, and medicine retreats. Jessica has been on her spiritual journey since 2009. And has expanded into her work with sacred earth medicine in 2019. So she is a medicine healer as well. Jessica has had the honor to guide many through their healing journey and to awaken their spirit through intuition, ritual, and sacred ceremony. I know this firsthand as I've attended some of these, and they're so powerful. Jessica's the creator of the Sacred Wild Retreat and the Sacred Presence Retreat, and Soul Magick, a program to empower and guide spiritual leaders through their healing journey and into expansion, which is what we're here and what we're all about. So, Jessica, introduce yourself and let us know where you started with all this. Give us more details. Tell us about yourself. I want to know everything.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
having me on. I'm so excited to be here. And I love our conversations. So this is going to be hopefully just an awesome time for all of us involved. So where does it start? So my awakening started in 2009, and I actually met Chris shortly after that, which is awesome. We've been on a journey together. And I started my journey really in my awakening with mediumship. I was having experiences from spirit that I didn't understand that were really scary. And I was in it, around 30. So around my Saturn return when this happened.
Yes.
And along my journey, I've worked through learning mediumship and intuition and teaching it. And I found myself in my own spiritual journey, awakening through plant spirit, and it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's brought me back home to myself. It's brought me into more healing. It's been a roller coaster, and I feel honored to help lead others and facilitate journeys so that they can awaken and really go through not just the spiritual awakening, but the ascension, the raise in vibration, and really understanding what coming home to yourself means.
And that is beautiful. And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on this show, because that truly is living the Chyron archetype, if I ever heard it. Both of us we are very similar in the work we do, but in traditional mythology, Chyron was an astrologer, but he was also a healer, a teacher, and a medium. That was what Chyron did. Chyron is the medium, the channel between the physical and non-physical worlds, and he is known in astrology as the shaman. So, and if I'm not mistaken, in work that we've done together before, you have Chyron in your first house in your astrology chart, which means that archetype really lives within your personality and in your persona very strongly. So it sounds like all of those things are being married together, but like myself, I'm sure there was a time where you didn't know where all this was going. And I kind of want to go back to that because we're going to talk all kinds of plant spirits here in a little bit. But I want to talk about mediumship, and I want to
Okay.
talk about back in the day.
Mhm.
where that started for you, because there's many people waking up right now, and many of the people waking up in their ascension journey, they're experiencing, I would call, mediumship activations or an awareness of mediumship abilities, which are different than just psychic abilities. And I kind of want you to go into that. Was there any experience that you had or desire for that before 2009? You know, when did this really start, or was that totally out of the blue?
You know, looking back, I would say it was totally out of the blue at the time. But as I've looked back, I've always been curious about the paranormal, or watched Sylvia Brown,
Yeah.
and was aware and curious about the psychics and the mediums like Chip Coffey.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was turning 30, I was taking a shower and I just had a random thought in my own voice to myself. Jessica, tell your mom I love her, and I'm sorry I wasn't there for her. My first reaction was, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And the next, before I could even finish that thought, I knew what had happened and who it was. I had a cousin speak to me who passed when I was 4 and deliver a very specific message. So I called my mom. I told her what happened. She said, Jessica, a friend of ours, Marilyn Gaddy, is a psychic, and she's amazing. And she said, she told me that 5 years ago, but I thought it was from my brother because she gave me the letter M. I said, no, it was from your cousin. I knew it. And I remember that whole day just going, oh my God, that was real. That was real. That was real. Going to work feeling numb, you know?
Well, I hate to interrupt you, but how did you know it was real? Because people listening are thinking, well, I've had experiences like this, but they keep gaslighting themselves. What was different about this that, you know, because this sounds almost like your activation point, almost like that point in which the point of no return. You can't go back now, but also many people are having that, but they're questioning it. They're gaslighting themselves. What was different? What did it feel like?
I knew I wasn't talking to myself. That was my first thought. I was like, wait, why would I talk to myself in the first person? That was the thought that came to me while I was still showering, while I was just receiving it. And I just knew. And sometimes you just know, and nobody can confirm that. That's a trust. Your intuition is a trust in yourself. And sometimes there's not a confirmation. Sometimes you're the leader and you just know that your claircognizance. It's really in your sacral chakra, around your creation point, around where our energy portal is coming in. The other was, I called my mom, I told her, and she said somebody told her that exact thing
Okay.
5 years before.
And
I did get confirmation.
That's an incredible place to go, because there was a bravery on your part to take that to your mother, because what if you were wrong? What if she didn't resonate? What if it sounded crazy? But, you know, they say the universe rewards bravery. So it was, there's many people who are listening to this who may have had these experiences. They just aren't opening their mouth.
Yes, it's valid, because somebody might not receive it. It also might be so personal. They're like, excuse me? So there's always, it's nice to say to them, hey, I received a message through their loved one spirit. Can I give it to you? So you're asking for permission before you land it. Some people might want to ask in a roundabout way, like, are you feeling this way? And they get a huge yes, and they feel the courage to give the message. Also, if you're just not ready for that, I recommend writing them down in a journal. Your dreams, your thoughts, your premonitions. If you don't want to put it out there, keep track of it for yourself to validate yourself. Take the classes, be curious. It's a gift, and you don't have to have this gift to do what we do. You can use it in nursing, that's healing. You can use it in therapy.
Good point.
That's beautiful spot to have intuition. Like, you're a healer in these areas. You're a healer in your work. In some way, if you're helping people, you're a healer.
Jessica, tell us what are some ways that someone can know if they're a healer? Because we could say that everyone is,
I
everyone's a
mean,
healer
you
in their own
could.
right. But let's talk about the people who have some type of unique, innate ability or magic, if you will, because that's what we do here. But what are some ways that you knew
Mhm.
or could tell? Because take us into how it morphed and evolved from
Yeah, I think that would be the
mediumship.
best way to show you because I was drawn to healthcare in my career. So a lot of us that are drawn to help people in our career in some way are already healers because we're helping people process if we're a hairdresser. We're
Hmm.
helping people process as a therapist. Like there are many of us that are helping people, holding space for people, listening and exchanging energy with people
Right.
that are healing in some way.
Hmm.
Acupuncturists, there's just many people that are healers. When you start to awaken at that first point, for me it was learning, taking in knowledge, understanding what was happening, realizing I didn't have all the answers, but we actually do have all the answers, but I didn't have all the answers and I wanted all the knowledge I could take in.
Yeah.
And also I was experiencing people being like, wow. And I was like, what? Because I did not fully understand my power.
Right.
However, I had people around me that were like, oh, you're a healer. So you start to hear people telling you,
Hmm.
which are signs from spirit. They're channeled through your teacher or friends telling you. There are signs popping up that keep showing up and you start to brush it off. I hope you see the synchronicities. I hope you
Uh-huh.
believe in the synchronicities
Yeah.
instead of brushing those off. So starting to note those things and come into self-awareness, because coming into the self-awareness and being like, okay, this is real. That's step one. That's step one. You can sit there
Yes.
for as long as you'd like.
Yeah,
Sit there for as long as you'd like.
yeah. Yeah.
And
I
then move
sat
to
there for a
step
couple
two.
years.
Yeah. I sat there for many years.
Hmm.
I sat there for many until spirit put me in front of someone that said, oh, you're a medium. I was like, I'm sorry, what? I'm a, and
I
quickly
said the
within a
same thing.
year was studying, within a year of someone telling me that and starting to
Hmm.
get awarenesses that I was a medium and I was supposed to work with spirit. I studied one-on-one with a mentor. And then I studied at two different um, places. Once I went to Lilydale, New York, and studied with John White for a weekend. I went to Arthur Findlay College and studied with Mavis Patilla,
Mm.
um, and um, a couple of other teachers as well there, Lynn Cottrell and Maureen. They're not on the top of my head right now, I apologize, but many great teachers that I'm glad to share out at Arthur Findlay. And it was 2 weeks of an immersion in mediumship.
Do you feel that that is necessary for everyone or would benefit everyone? Let's not say necessary. Do you think that that would benefit
I
people?
think
Let's talk about
I
because
was
mediums
ready to
are
go.
healers.
I say again, sorry.
Mediums are healers. So there's going to be a lot of people on here who are who have this ability or who are awakening to this and these sorts of things. And would it be in their best interest to train or have a mentor or educate themselves?
Mhm.
Or because for me, a lot of it was spirit, it was experience, it was spirit driven, it was intuitive, but also there was mediumship courses and classes
Yes.
and exercises sprinkled in. But your experience was more densely educational than mine, but that probably set the tone for the rest of your experience. So just want to hear your thoughts about that.
No, I don't think that there is a right or wrong way to go into your gift. I think you are intuitively guided to teachers. You are intuitively guided in the route for you. And there may be times that you're sitting with spirit and learning it on your own. I think many people learn it on their own. And I think that Some people are drawn to a teacher. They may start to pop up on your social media. You may find classes in town. And I just recommend that you follow your gut and ask for what you're meant to learn. If you know what you want to learn and you know that you want classes, then look for those. I have a virtual course, Mediumship for the Intuitive, that's for any level medium, whether you're beginning or already working and need extra tools, because I found that learning from different teachers, I learned different techniques, and it brought me into a space where I was developing my own mediumship development techniques to bring forward to people who do want to learn and maybe want to learn in the home space.
Where
But
can we find this mediumship course?
you can actually find it on my website under courses.
So
And
is it video course? And oh, very cool.
video, it's got a full guide, it's got a full
Beautiful.
transcript, it's got the information, the exercises, the meditations, all in one program for you to study at home, and then decide if you want to schedule a mentoring session.
And this is at thejessicatanzelle.com.
Yes.
Yes, which will be listed in the show notes below,
Yeah.
of course.
Yes.
But just wanted to make sure everyone knew where to go find that.
And you really do need to guide it on your own. There's no right or wrong way. Please don't let anyone tell you there's a right or wrong way. It's
I
what's
can
best for your
say
gut.
some structure helped me.
Mhm.
Okay.
I agree.
So, and if I'm not mistaken, you have an acting background.
Oh, yes.
So, things like platform mediumship or mediumship for groups, mediumship for entertainment or videos or anything like that. That's some people may never be drawn to that, and that may have been what drew you to larger educational experiences.
I mean, within my first year, I was on stage presenting mediumship.
Wow.
And that's when I realized that I had done acting my whole life. I was like, oh, I get to present this in an audience. I'm
Right.
in.
Yes.
I'm in. Like,
Yes.
I was born for this. And it's
Yes,
a
you were.
fun, it's a fun thing to do. And also there's a reverence to it. So it's
Yeah.
like, I do bring in the personality and the fun. And also I want to be reverent, but also spirit does have humor. So don't be scared if you mediums are out there are feeling their humor. Sometimes they're inappropriate, and you
Yes.
do have a responsibility as a medium, one, to ask permission to deliver that message, because it's not supposed to happen at the grocery like Teresa Caputo does, although I love her. I love her.
Me too.
However, like, that is an entertainment. When we're doing things like that, there is a permission before you ask.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
There's so many mediums that do it different ways. So find your way.
Yeah, and until we have a team of producers and camera people who can have those people who seemingly seem to be snuck up on by this big woman with blonde hair and long nails, there's a whole thing that goes into that. They've asked permission, there's contracts that
Yes.
have been signed. So don't do what Chrystopher did in Kroger and go up to the cashier. Hey, I've done it at work. I used to do it
You
everywhere. I
know,
looked at it
yeah.
as practice, but I was still in the phase where I needed to prove something to myself. And that was a
Okay.
good phase to go through. So
I
just like you were
am
in the phase
not
where you were
gonna.
sucking up all that
Yep.
information, the
Yep.
sponge stage, as we call it in the ascension process.
If you are drawn to give someone a reading, because there's actually not a judgment on this, I just recommend you ask permission. That's all this is about. Because yes, because I believe in all of these mediums out there and the work that they're doing, and also we should be asking permission.
Yes, permission is very important. So I really feel that the work that you do is really empowering. So asking permission would be empowering to the other person as well. So a lot of what we do in the work that we do and that you do, it sounds like that it's not about forcing a healing on somebody or making someone do something that they don't want to do. It's all about resonance and allowing, are you ready to hear this? Checking in with those sorts of things. I mean, I'm sure you have to do that in all of the work that you do.
Yeah, say that again. I'm sorry. Say that
Yeah,
again.
asking permission. Like even in
Yeah.
shamanic work, we ask
Oh, okay.
permission
Yeah.
to go to the lower world and the upper world. And there's a lot of permission because we're empowering others. So we're giving that power to them. We're not just forcing a message on them, telling them they need a healing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's permission in how we communicate with each other. There's permission, and well, when you sign up for a session with one of us, you've already given us permission.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so, however, there are boundaries that we set. So I can't just start reading Chris from here on a random Saturday because I want to know what Chris is up to or doing. Like
Hmm.
I should be making sure I have permission from Chris to do that. Or even with healing, like I can send healing and the higher self can choose to accept it or not. But actually, I should be checking in with the person. Like, are you cool if I send you healing? Because they may not want my energy at all. I might be
Right.
triggering them. So, there's a lot of permission involved. Even in circle, even when we're sharing with each other, I love to share and I love to process out loud. And
Me too.
sometimes it can be a big process. And if I haven't made sure the person in front of me has space for it,
Right.
it's not going to be well received and it can really shift the energy.
Hmm.
So there's so many spaces um, and in healing with permission.
So that was where I was going to go
Especially in the
next. You mentioned
spaces we work in.
circle. When you
Yeah.
say circle, what do you mean?
Well, I work in cacao ceremonies. So I work in a lot of circles where we're sharing, we're doing healing, we're doing sound, I'm offering Reiki, and we're working with plant medicines.
So
We
you
work
are a Reiki healer as well.
I'm a
Okay.
Reiki healer, I'm a shamanic healer. And so I work with Reiki, I work with a lot of essential oils, I work with crystals, drumming, sound bowls, a gong.
Hmm.
I work through the realms of spirit, really working through the lower, the middle, and the higher realm to
Hmm.
really dig deeper into your healing, because I find that we're not just soothing the mind, body, and soul, but we're actually digging deep into dimensions to heal the trauma that we are carrying in our bodies,
Hmm.
to replace it with higher vibrational energy, in higher vibrational thoughts and patterns. We're repatterning this generational trauma and restructuring all of humanity, each
Which
one
is
of us.
really incredibly huge work. And I am very curious, how did you evolve from mediumship to working with um, not just plant medicine, but in the shamanic world? As we know, the shaman, Chiron is a shaman, the Chiron archetype and the shamanic archetype, it is a mediumship energy. So it does go hand in hand, but we don't see that often play out that way. We don't often
Yeah.
see Teresa Caputo holding a cacao ceremony. We think of mediums as people who speak to the dead, when mediums are gatekeepers between realms, truly. That's what a medium is. So, yes, we can communicate with those who are no longer in their physical body, but we can communicate with angels, extra dimensional beings from other planets and star systems, guides, fairies, elementals. Those are also, because we're connector points.
Yeah.
How did that connect for you?
Oh gosh. Okay, let me go back. I just am dying thinking about one of my first teachers telling me, you're going to believe in all of this woo woo stuff. And you just listed fairies and dragons and
Yes.
unicorns. I was like, oh, I'm in, like leaning in, totally in. When the door opened for mediumship for me and I started connecting to spirit, I just was very open to the possibility of more. I took other classes. I took beginning shamanic journeying with Gina Millard,
Uh-huh.
and I continued to go to drum circles. And it's like things were put along my path, and I started really working with the moon energy and the
Hmm.
earth energy, and I started holding moon circles.
Hmm.
I would do a full moon ceremony. I would offer Reiki and some breath work and some meditation and some card pulls. And it was a beautiful circle that I got to hold. From there, I started my journey with plant medicine.
It just sounds like the next logical step. You know what I mean? Like I'm holding a circle, we're doing it at a certain time, there's intention. At some point, plant spirits were probably going to show up. It was just because that's how they've been,
Yeah.
circles have been used around medicinal plants and working in a shamanic sense for thousands of years. So it was going to happen, it sounded like, since you had already started to transition there, even before this huge psychedelic renaissance really took off in the past
Yeah.
few years. So,
Yeah, it's interesting because I was holding mediumship development and intuitive development and also holding circles and starting to hold the drum circles. So it morphed into that even before I added sound. And plant medicine for me at that time, I remember having a curiosity and being drawn to a couple teachers, and one not working out, the other I wasn't ready for the investment,
yeah,
and then falling into the perfect circle
yeah,
that brought me into my journey with it. And as I got into my journey with actually psychedelics,
uh-huh.
I hadn't even tried cacao yet. I didn't even know about it. And I was handed this pound of cacao that I kept on my altar for a month. There's like candle wax on the wrapper.
Uh-huh.
I still have it, like
Uh-huh.
sitting with it, not knowing what to do with it, and building into holding these cacao circles. And I've been holding them for 3 years.
Okay, let's talk about cacao because
Okay.
um, just so everyone knows who's listening and watching, Jessica is actually the one who popped my cacao cherry. And not only have I loved chocolate my whole life, but cacao is not chocolate. I knew that. I understood for years now, even before Jessica really pushed me, because again, it felt like a lesser medicine. My ego put it on a different, I'm beyond that, I felt. Okay. I've already worked with ayahuasca and psilocybin. And what do you mean working with cacao? You know, it felt inferior, if I'm being honest. And many people who come to my cacao ceremonies have that same energy within them. There's a skepticism. And I'll never forget my first cacao ceremony with you when I felt something I've never felt eating chocolate cake. I can definitely tell you that. I could not believe, and I have worked with medicines such as MDMA and Huachuma, which I do want to talk about that as well, especially since you've got some cacti lining up behind you, perfectly placed. Um, but the feelings that I felt and it had an MDMA like effect, which of course it would, being a heart opener, but I could not. I honestly was moved. That's the word. I don't want to say shocked, but moved and inspired. And I was all for it, but I really honestly was not expecting to feel what I felt. And I thought, okay, that's it. We could call anything medicine. We could sit around and with lettuce and give it reverence, and it would have a power to it. You know, your intention is everything. But if you've worked with ceremonial cacao, there is something magical about it. And it is one of my absolute favorite medicines, even beyond the ones that everyone's seeking right now. So tell me about your experience with Mama Cacao and sitting with her and facilitating and being a medium between the world and this beautiful medicine.
Yeah, I do feel like there's more for mediumship here, because being a medium, to me, I do connect to loved ones. I do connect to Aunt Joe, Aunt Susie coming on
Right.
again. Like I
I,
do, mom and
uh-oh.
dad, I talk to, so that I know there's more mediumship here. I don't want to skip past that. I want to talk about it is
Yes.
a connection between energies. And
Hmm.
then we moved into the energy of this spirit who is now a consciousness.
Yeah.
And I can connect to my dad. I can connect to Archangel Michael. I could connect to the goddess Isis. I'm into it. I'm into all of those. I believe that we all have the ability to connect to those, including Jesus. I am a
Yes.
fan. I work with all of these higher dimensional beings. And also, when we're connecting to specific loved ones in mediumship, it's such a beautiful gift to be able to use for your own healing,
Hmm.
to heal others in grief, And it can be just for you, and it can be for the people that you get messages for. It doesn't have to be for this. You can learn it for you. I want to say that. When I shifted into shamanic, when I was starting to hold circle, it was really honoring the energy of the moon, honoring the energy of the earth. And this cacao is honoring the energy of a medicine. There is a reverence. We are asking permission. Can I work with you? That was the beginning. I sat the cacao on the altar. Can I work with you? Are you willing to connect to me?
Mm-hmm.
You usually are getting permission because you're drawn to certain medicines. You start to find a curiosity. Your intuition starts to put it right in front of you in some way, literally handed to me.
Yeah.
And so I got permission, and then I sat in ceremony with her every day, and I did a ritual of making the cacao, putting intention into the cacao, blessing the cacao with my guides and the people I call in, and putting my intention into that. My intention many days was, show me how I can work with you. And some days it was like, what do I need to know? Like, what is happening? So it depends on the day, but actually I felt very grounded with this medicine because it connects you to the earth. And I felt also very open and able to connect to spirit with ease. It allows you to open your heart, connect to your soul. I feel that our heart is our opening to our soul, and it allows you to open this connection to spirit as well as feel grounded.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What do you mean heart opener for our listeners and viewers?
Cool. When we are opening our heart with cacao and many of these medicines, we are actually physically opening it. It thins the blood. It activates it to flow through our system differently. This is also the area that our soul, well, let me go back, because where I feel that our heart chakra, one, it is the bridge between our physical chakras and our spiritual chakras. It is the start of our spiritual chakras and the opening of our soul. So when we open our heart, we open the rest of our higher chakras, connect ourselves to our higher self, to your spirit guides, your higher teachers. If you want to go lower realm, you can go that way too.
Yeah.
So it opens our heart physically and spiritually, and it allows for an awakening space.
Yeah, they also say that the doorway into the fifth dimension, this unity consciousness we keep talking about, is through the heart. And I love that you called the heart the bridge, because that's what we call Chiron, is we call that little asteroid that lives between Saturn and Uranus the rainbow bridge, because Chiron is the bridge between the physical and non-physical realms. And so there's also a resonance between Chiron and that shamanic archetype and the ascension process right now, because we're trying to move back into the heart, into unity consciousness. And so there must be a gatekeeper, if you will. And in my medicine profile, I do consider cacao to be the gatekeeper. She kind of opens the door to all of them. So, and I know you have worked with other medicines, including Huachuma, and I definitely want to talk about that. Talk about a heart opener, a more advanced heart opener in certain ways. It doesn't mean it's going to give you more healing, but the experience is definitely different. So how did that come into the picture as well? It definitely seems, as a Chiron archetype, like myself, as much as we love to get out in spirit and we love a good kaleidoscopic moment, we really love being in the heart.
Yeah.
We really love starting there. So, and of course, grandfather would call to you. So I want to know about that.
Cool. Moving from cacao, I realized how powerful it was when I sat with it for 6 weeks and my schedule canceled and I was lying on my own table crying. I was having flashes of this relationship with a special person in my life, looking at all the ways that I had not done great. And I was like, this is not fun. And I know with spiritual work, there is a roller coaster to it. I get to look at these really cool things. And also I have to look at the things that are my shadow. That's what we're doing when we're awakening. We're clearing those things out. So it started to show me those. I had already been working with psychedelics About a year after that, I was drawn to work with ayahuasca, had
Hmm.
an ayahuasca journey that was really empowering for me. I went through a process of Pachamama embodying me completely.
Can you tell our viewers about Pachamama real quick?
Pachamama is Mother Earth, and she is a powerful goddess that aligns often with ayahuasca
Uh-huh.
and also the jaguar.
Those divine
And
feminine archetypes,
mhm.
yes.
And I, on this journey,
Which, so Pachamama, which culture? I'm not familiar offhand. Like what part of the world? Isn't that South American? Aren't we dealing?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So, which definitely seems in so far to be a part of the world that really resonates with you.
yeah, and the medicines that I align with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did that journey and went back to that same space to learn about, to study, and to sit with Huachuma probably 8 months later, 6 to 8 months
Uh-huh.
later.
Uh-huh.
And I remember sitting around learning about it, watching the process, being a part of it. And one of the teachers going, "You come do this because you're going to be doing this." And I was like, "Oh, Lord, well, that was a message.
A
Like,
message from spirit. There it
that
goes
was
again.
like message from spirit."
Right.
And I sat with it for a week, and I sat with it while brewing it
Oh, I
and
see.
while sitting with it and
Uh-huh.
sitting in a community of 20 to 30 people, because some were there to learn and some were there, came
To
in to
experience. Yeah.
experience, and sitting on this sacred land and getting to just really be in this free flow of whatever I needed to be unplugged, to be in community, to have time to myself, to just be, was amazing. And there's a lot of freedom with the grandfather. And if you think about a grandfather, and not all of us, I want to honor that. But if I could lean into this grandfather energy, it's real patient. He's
Mm-hmm.
real patient and he's so gentle. And I saw him as I was cutting up for a recent brew. I was sitting and I was like, "Good, talk to me." And it was like I was sitting out on my porch and he was sitting like my own grandfather would with his legs crossed and just sitting back, relaxed, kind of waiting.
Uh-huh.
And then I'd go into my own thing and then I'd come back and look for him and he'd be like, "I'm waiting. I'm ready. Are you?" And then we go back into conversation, patient, gentle, and fucking powerful.
Yeah, I want to talk about this because in society today, we tend to look at the masculine archetype or the male as being the dominant or
Okay,
the
yeah.
go-getter, the action taker, at the masculine energy taking action, and that the feminine energy is kind of a sitting back, a submissive, a receiving. All those messages can get mixed up and not even mean the same thing. And in the Balinese traditions, they have Shakti and Shiva, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Well, to the divine masculine, Shiva is very grounding, stable, secure. Shakti is wild, ferocious, like Kali energy. Her tongue hangs out of her mouth and she stands on a skull like Kali. And that's what I feel truly embodies the divine masculine and the divine feminine, because ferocious is life giving and creation. That's that feminine. And when you work with ayahuasca and work with Huachuma, there's definitely a difference. And I want you to tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah,
Does
there's
everyone
definitely a
just
difference.
because everyone is trying to fly to Costa Rica and Peru right now to work with ayahuasca, not even realizing that they don't have to do that, but they also are all after this one medicine when there's so many out there, and Huachuma is on the rise. But we need to talk about it more and the difference so someone's educated, because they're not better than each other. They're almost both needed in my experience and my healing. I could see how both played a role and have a role within me, not one or the other. So let's talk about grandfather and grandmother.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So the grandfather is really gentle, patient, kind, and powerful. For some of us women that don't feel safe around a masculine, it's still difficult to let a
Yes.
safe masculine
I'm
in
so
because you
glad
don't
you brought that
recognize
up.
it.
So many of my
So,
female clients have spoken
mhm,
about their past Huachuma experiences as being difficult. And I'm
yes,
like, really? The MDMA of the plant spirit medicine world? Because
yes,
for someone
right.
like me, I would feel that nature's kiss, laying on the ground, staring up at the sun kind of thing in ecstasy, where other people, it will purge and clean out the system, similar to an ayahuasca. But because it's a spirit medicine, we don't know what it's going to do always. But generally, because you're so connected to both, I want to hear, I just want people to know kind of your take on both of them
Yeah.
separately, but also working together.
Sure. So, well, we are meant to, we are in our world taking down the toxic masculine and healing it. And it is important to bring in safe masculine. And
Hmm.
Ra has been coming in for me. He's really trying to bring in a safe masculine.
Egyptian
And
raw.
Egyptian Ra. And
Beautiful.
so we are really healing that. So it is important that we are balancing the masculine and the feminine within us all, because we all are masculine and feminine. So I can understand and see how the grandfather and the grandfather work very well together.
Hmm.
The grandfather is very nourishing. It is very detoxing for the system, means it will help clean you out, even if you're not
Hmm.
purging. You
Yeah.
do not always purge on these medicines.
Right, right.
You will not always
And
go
you're
to the
referring to
bathroom
throwing
like
up
you're
and using the
thinking.
restroom. You're
Right.
referring
You're
to
going to
throwing
be
up
able
and using
to
the restroom.
function. And if you can't,
Yes,
that's why you have facilitators like us to hold your
that's
hand,
right.
get you up, move you there. And
Purging can mean many things, though. I just want to tell
totally
people, you can cry it out without having to throw it up.
laugh.
Yes,
I
yes.
love when I hear laughter, and also
Dancing.
sometimes it's crying,
Yeah.
dancing. We do a lot of dancing in ours.
The medicine, you
Uh,
can feel it moving you to do that. I mean, it's very organic experience. So we can't.
it's a
Jessica
very
and I are not
organic
telling you what you
experience.
will experience with ayahuasca and Wachuma, but from general experiences, they do have a different personality.
Well, and that's when we go back to talking about the energy of plant medicine, because the energy of plant medicine is what you're connected to. And you're saying, okay, Wachuma, okay, I have this intention, show me the way. And you surrender to this medicine and let it move you, let it use your voice, let it come through you. And we are holding the safe space for you to be with it, commune with it, and hear what it has for you. I love the community aspect. And also I find,
Hmm.
it's important to go within in these, to find some quiet time in these. Ayahuasca took me to where she wanted to take me, and she
As
didn't let
she
me out.
usually does.
I said, okay, can I be done now? She said, no, you don't get to be done. You're going to be here till sunrise, and you're going to be here till sunrise until you promise you're coming back tomorrow. Because I might have been a no for night 2, to be honest.
Right.
Because
Yes.
and listen, I didn't start with Aya. I started with sassafras and kanna and some and psilocybin.
Hmm.
And I was real happy with what I was trying. So I just need
Yes.
to know it doesn't have to be a fucking knockdown drag out. You can start real gentle
Thank
with your
you.
heart
Thank you.
openers.
Yes.
Start with cacao. Those are things that you want to sit with your intuition. It doesn't have to be hard. You can ask for grace and ease. And also, she took me. I saw a whole past life. I sobbed on the shaman, snotting on her clothes for an hour. I
Uh-huh.
was afraid to move because I was afraid they would stop like giving me like a little healing. I was afraid to move, afraid to accept, afraid I would push them away.
Uh-huh.
And I had seen this whole past life. And I realized I was my great grandmother reincarnated, and that
Whoa.
I was from that land, and I didn't know how I was going to leave. And sometimes in these treats, it is you got to come back to earth, you got to come back in, and you do safely come back in, but you also have to integrate this whole past life that I now know about.
Exactly.
And the next night, I got to see some unsafe spaces in my life. And it was really given to me in a gentle way. She's also got a
She can be
gentleness.
gentle too. Thank you for saying that.
She gave it to me in a gentle way and showed me where my voice was taken and showed me where I was hearing too much. And
Yeah.
then I had to take away my clairaudience too, and where I lost those and where I could call my power back from those.
Uh-huh.
And so I got more information about myself that some was hard to handle. It was hard. And it was another like hour of being with the shaman, like crying again. I was
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah.
And I just had to be okay being the one in the big process,
Yeah.
because it is okay. Because what she told me when Pachamama embodied me that first night in my body, I was going through my Kundalini awakening and my body was undulating for hours.
Uh-huh.
And she wouldn't let me up. She embodied me and the phoenix rose and she said, you will help activate souls to come back to this life. And she
Wow.
just showed me that I would be working with the medicine and that I would be healing. And I didn't know what that meant then, but I knew when I got with Huachuma, and it drew to me. I grow it, I harvest it, I
Yeah.
grew it. Like, it's a medicine that I feel so drawn to. And they're both going to connect you to the earth. I feel like with the grandmother that you lie in it a lot, there is community aspect, but usually after your process, and there's a lot of music that comes in, right? And so you
Yeah.
can end it with a lot of music and really, and I feel like it's a gentle ending. I feel like I was refreshed after both medicines.
Yeah.
Like I woke up the next morning like, okay, I'm ready for meditation, because
Right.
I was in a meditation retreat at the same time we were doing ayahuasca. So
Uh-huh.
I felt refreshed from both medicines.
Yes, they will. Yeah, they clear you out.
With Huachuma, I like to use it during the day because it really will connect you to the earth.
And
And
it,
there is a lot
yeah,
of
thank you for
like
mentioning that.
bliss, and it's a sun medicine, and you bless it with the sun and you honor it in the sun, and you get to be with the earth and be in your process. And also it just has a gentle way of showing you what you need to see. There's a lot of bliss with this medicine too. It's okay because it's delivered in such a way that you can take a little bit more to even shift a process.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Um, Wachuma definitely has a reconnection. See, ayahuasca with the DMT, there's definitely a full spirit, that kind of coming into that multidimensional place. Mescaline in the San Pedro, or Wachuma as we call it, and peyote cacti,
Mhm.
a beautiful spirit medicine, but it's still very heart and body, where ayahuasca can be too. Spirit medicines cover all the directions, they activate all of them. But it just seems to be that Wachuma really lodges itself in the heart more. Ayahuasca is more likely to take you to a past life more than Wachuma, but not always. It's just, it can live here, Wachuma, more. There's more sensuality, would you say?
Yes, there can be a lot of sacral chakra opening and a lot of creativity opening and a lot of sensuality opening, like reclaiming in that area. It really is where you're saying it's here. It's here in the heart. It brings you present.
Mm-hmm.
You will be present with whatever's coming up for you, even current feelings that you're in, current processes that are coming out. It will put you present and put it right in front of you.
Um, what about Wachuma for microdosing?
It's a beautiful microdoser. It really, the mescaline works very well on the serotonin receptors in your brain.
That would definitely
And
make
it's
it a
very
daytime
gentle.
medicine. Yes.
It is, and actually, it is a longer medicine. It's going to stay in your system for a longer time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So daytime for sure, because
Similar to like iboga, we're getting to 18, 20 hours sometimes.
yeah, like 12 to 16.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So you want to
Yeah.
be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Take me back. What we're going into. I got lost because we went into hours.
I don't know. Where were we? I don't know.
Where
Well,
spirit let us know. Well,
um,
we're talking about let's see. We're talking
shit
about
fire. We're
shit
talking about
fire.
we're talking about plant medicine, but
Of
we
course.
yeah, just really that the difference between ayahuasca and wachuma, and what's curious to me is what really brought you to Huachuma after that transformative ayahuasca experience and working with many other medicines, it sounds. What is it about Huachuma that is calling you, and what do you feel Huachuma's place is in our ascension and awakening process?
Wachuma has a very high vibration. It does raise your vibration. It does connect you with the earth energy. It does bring you present. It is important that we are living this earthly life as well as awakening spiritually. This medicine helps do this. I had somebody just send me a message. I did a women's retreat on Saturday, and they all worked with Wachuma. And she said, I love the other medicines. However, this one helped me rise.
Yeah.
This one helped me move through it and rise. And so it helped really to face it instead of finding ways to look at it in all the directions. It just puts it right there to help it move through. So it is going to move the things out that high vibration cannot handle. You want to be drawn to it, though, because it is a big medicine. It is going to be a big process for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
These women, we were all kind of like shaking it out already. And so I tend to feel what they're feeling too.
Yes.
And so there's a huge process that came with it. But I found that this medicine, with how it's bringing the healing, it's bringing the awakening in such a gentle way, in a powerful way. And it's a jump forward without having to hit a low dip again. With some other medicines, I get a low dip and I'm down for a while.
Yeah.
And this one just keeps gliding you forward.
Yeah.
With it as a microdose, you want to be careful where you're getting it and what you're getting. Because with a lot of the powders that are out there, you actually don't know the true dosing. You cannot guarantee if it's a low amount or what actual amount of mescaline is in there.
Right.
So you really want to be working with somebody, if you are working with that, in
a reputable source, a good company, good shaman or healer who grows it themselves, that sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And many of the people who are listening are interested in plant medicine. They have been watching How to Change Your Mind. They've been watching documentaries. They may have already researched different retreats or microdosing protocols to go to. But many, 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 many millions of them are already working with plant medicine at home, and they don't even realize it.
Okay.
And that's what I want to talk about a little bit. And this has been a journey for me as well, because cannabis is a beautiful plant medicine, just as any of them are. But there are quite a few people who say that cannabis dulls the brain and that it weakens the neural pathways, and that it can, with overuse, I'm sure ceremonial use or recreational use that is lighter wouldn't be the same as if you're doing it all day or doing it every night. I understand. But there's a lot of people who also don't recommend cannabis while microdosing with psilocybin or mescaline, ayahuasca, that sort of thing. And so, but I have also found, in my healing journey, my relationship with cannabis has changed. And although I do not consider it my favorite medicine, nor do I have always used it with intention, I actually can journey with it now where it didn't used to do that. So I do believe that the spirit of it, because I have a different relationship with the earth and medicine now, that changed my relationship with cannabis just by default, the energy. And what are your thoughts about cannabis? And because spirit has come to me several times in the past several months, encouraging me to do cannabis ceremonies. And I do believe cannabis, although it is a mind medicine, it does have a heart opening effect. I believe with intention it can be used. And so I want to hear from you about that, and how you operate in the world where no one's using cannabis to create a ceremony at home. I mean, not nobody, but most people are smoking it in front of the TV with a friend, using it to help them sleep. It's not the same way that we're using these other medicines. So let's talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about it. There are many plant medicines. I work with essential oils. I work with certain salves, flying salves. There are
Thank you
many
for bringing that up
ways.
as well, because many people plant medicine. Lettuce is a plant medicine because it's feeding your
Yes,
body. So, but
yes.
and when you get connected to all of them, even essential oils have the power to shift your mood. So please, let's go into all of that.
Well, and they are all an energy. We are connecting to an energy. You do not have to ingest a plant medicine to connect to the
That's
energy of it.
right.
You can go ahead and sit in meditation and call upon Huachuma to say, hey, I want to talk to you. I want
Do
to
you
be
have to
curious
work
about
with
you.
Huachuma first in a microdosing? Like,
Oh,
this is something I
no.
want to. Some people say you have to work with the medicine first to be able to call upon it. And I don't think that's necessarily true,
No.
but I have noticed that after working with a medicine, my experience with that medicine spirit was much richer after having the chemical kind of once the chemicals absorbed into your body, there's a kind of
Yes.
energetic contract or kind of
You built
can't go
the
back now.
relationship.
Hmm.
You ingested it, you're building the relationship with it. So you're working with it in a new way, but to call upon it, to ask it, if you can work with it is important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we're working with plant medicines, we're working with energy. Being in a circle with cacao, I have one or two people that don't always drink their cacao, but they're in the energy of it. They don't have to drink it.
Same
Everybody's in
here.
the
Yeah.
energy of it. They're going to have the experience. Whether you need a heavier dose or she needs a lighter dose, we're all in the same energy and going to have
Right.
similar
Which is
experiences.
why we do it in community, because just that container allows you to, us as facilitators, I don't know about you, but every time I have a private journey or a retreat or something like that, I won't even take some of those medicines, and that medicine spirit will come to me when I'm trying
As
to
a
go to
deed in
sleep
the
that
field.
night.
Yes, yes, I remember. Well, and so we're working with the energy of these plants. When we're working with cannabis, you're right. Not everybody's using it intentionally, but we should be using all of these medicines intentionally. I actually feel like my favorite microdosing medicine is actually psilocybin. I work with people microdosing that. I know you do as well.
Yes.
I find that there are a couple of protocols that we work with that work very well for microdosing. I think
Hmm.
that's a great place to start. If you're not a cannabis user, fuck it, don't start unless you're called to it.
Right.
If you are, I find that it is often when we're in retreat and I have somebody like, I don't think I have enough. I'm like, are you cannabis? Yes, they're a cannabis user.
Yep.
Just a little bit will relax their system and they are able to activate and fall into the medicine. I do not feel that cannabis is necessary. I do not feel that you should always combine.
I do want to
I
talk
do
about.
not give it when I'm doing MDMA and psilocybin,
Hmm.
it's end of the night. It's end of the
Right.
night. And
That's
in
right.
special instances when I'm checking with spirit and their medical history and all the good things,
Yes.
I will use it as an activator if I know that they're a cannabis user because it's on my intake form
Yeah.
and I've gotten their permission too.
Yeah.
With Huachuma, you can actually have food and cannabis only if you're a cannabis user, but it's unnecessary.
Right.
It's
And
unnecessary.
scientifically, there are certain mechanisms that that THC and the cannabinoids, their mechanism of action will sometimes counteract or cancel out some of what has happened in the psilocybin rewiring experience. We do know that, but not enough in those big experiences you can't cannabis is not going to make you forget the past life that you just remembered. There's certain things that it's not going to undo in that type of experience.
Let's
We
go
can
back
be,
and talk
we have
about,
to trust our intuition on that.
yeah, and I want to talk about too, like using it outside of retreat, because really you don't want to necessarily sit with more than one medicine anyway. You're building a
Yeah.
relationship with Huachuma, sit with Huachuma, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And bringing it into the daily life, there are many of us, I have too, not used it intentionally. It's been a part of my life for a long time. Now there is intention. I don't always need it. I'm also checking in. Is it for me right now? If it's
Right,
not for
right.
me, I'm waiting. When I have it, I'm blessing it, because this is a ritual. It's a smoking ritual. It's not just out of habit or because I'm blocking my feelings, which we can use it that way.
And
We
it can
can
do.
abuse it.
That's the
And I've
difference I
been
want to
there.
talk about with
There is a
psilocybin
difference.
and certain medicines,
Yeah.
because any person that I know who's worked with psilocybin, it didn't numb or mute anything.
No.
It enhances. So THC in those higher doses, it's not like we're smoking hemp. We're smoking marijuana these days that has 35% THC in it. That's from these hydroponic crossbred. So that's also different. But they do say that cannabis is a fourth dimensional plant. So for some people, it will raise their vibration. And for others, if they're already at a certain level, or even just during your day, depending on where you are in your frequency, it could actually make you feel less enhanced. 'Cause some people it makes them more creative. For me, it can make me feel dull and not remember and feel, which I need sometimes because it's hard to put me down.
I'm
So,
glad we're having this conversation, because I actually am a fan of cannabis if you're using it with intention. And if you feel like you are also overusing it, you check in, you're like, is this for me? And you get a yes, and you realize why is because you are like not feeling yourself. At least acknowledge what you're doing when you do that, so
that's
that you
right.
are aware of your energy. And
Yeah.
it's like, even like when we're like, I want the cake. Oh, I'm doing that because I'm emotional. You better go ahead and just be okay. Okay, I'm going to do it anyway. But I do know that I need to sit with my emotions, because
Mindfulness.
you are working with these plant medicines to awaken, which means you're awakening to what you can't remember in the spiritual realm and the physical realm. So be ready to go through the awakening of emotions. It's going to activate emotions. It's going to activate all of them, all the levels of them. And joy is just as hard to receive as
Oh my
the
God.
shadow side, my friend. I'm over here like, I don't know how to receive that.
Well,
You know, so
some people that I've met in clients and people that I've worked with, they've never, when I started working with medicine, I remember the medicine facilitator. I went up to her and I said, "This isn't doing anything. I'm not feeling anything." And she
well,
said, "Do you feel peace?" And that shook me like I mean, I felt like I was hit by a ton of bricks, because I realized I felt so good in that I was staring at the fire for hours without thinking about anything. And I thought, this isn't enough. My ego
yeah,
was still able to kick in. And
you had an
I had never
expectation.
felt, I definitely did. And I also had never felt peace before. So I didn't know what I was feeling.
Yes.
Some
Yes.
people don't even know what they're feeling because they never felt it.
And
So,
sometimes it's really uncomfortable to feel peace, to feel joy,
yes,
to
I didn't
feel
like it at first.
love. And in sometimes
Yes.
those are the growth of expansion. Is you think it's hard to feel all the pain you felt, but shit, you got to accept that love. And it's like, oh, this
Yeah,
is real
yeah. You know
vulnerable.
what
Like,
it felt like? It almost felt like, here's a little taste of what's to come. Not only does it let me, because if my first experience had been like your Pachamama experience, I may have been a little traumatized. And I've had your Pachamama experience, but not the first time. You can
Mhm.
almost see how the plant medicine experience, the medicine spirits, the container itself said, let's give you something you've never had before we make you relive what you've already lived.
I agree.
Let's help you understand that there is something to replace all of that with first.
Well, yes, the plants know how much to give you, how much you can handle, and when to give it to you. Some of you are going to have your experience in retreat. Some of you are going to have it the Thursday after.
That's right.
And
That's right.
because some of you need to be more private, and some of you are okay being in the open. The medicine knows when your process is meant to happen. Some of those times tend to be the day I think I'm going to run errands, and spirit says, sit
Yep.
down,
Oh,
and my more emotions start pouring out. This is also the
in a
reason
parking lot.
that, right, in a parking lot. May have been crying on my floor like a child last week. So I'm just
Yes.
saying,
Yeah.
we're
No.
just reminding you that there is a process. It's also why it's important to integrate with a therapist, one of your your facilitator, your integration coach after your process, because it's a big process.
Yes, it
But the
is.
medicine will not give you too much. And at that point, when you're like, this is too much, you ask them for grace and ease. They will give you enough to at least stop crying for about 5 minutes.
Or maybe you think you can't handle it, but you actually can.
And
We're
you
allowed to
can.
say, I can't do this anymore. We're allowed to say that, and it still keeps going, and you still keep doing it,
You
and you still
do.
keep
And
surviving.
ask
And
for grace
yeah,
and ease, right? Like ask
a
for
lot
what
of people
these
come
are.
to us and don't know how strong they are. They don't know how powerful they are yet. So an experience that knocks them completely out of this world and scares them,
Mm.
they just need they need the experience of it to know I am a warrior. I do have that in me, and I can face it if it's hard. And usually if they can let go of it being so hard, it doesn't feel as hard. There's an art to
It's
journeying, and we'll have to do
There's
a
an
whole
art to
episode.
journey. And that's why we're saying the medicine actually, they tend to be very gentle in your first,
Yeah,
very blissful in your first.
for sure.
And also there may be things that unlock that you didn't know were there. But I found that my first several, 4 to 5, were so blissful that I was like, everybody needs to feel this. Plant medicine is not for everyone. Please do it if only
Right,
if you're called.
right.
It is not necessary. It is for some of us very helpful, especially I have a wall. So it
Yes.
helps get to past my barrier so that I can do the work I
Yes,
need to do.
that's a
I
great
needed it.
point. Jessica could meditate for 12 hours to get in there first, but there are a lot of people who are like, I don't need plant medicine. I'm
Oh,
good without it. You're not called to it, but also a lot of people have resistance towards it because their ego is saying that mean if you need something, that means that you can't do it on your own, and that's like saying
oh,
that I don't need to eat because you could just look into the sun and feed all of your cells. But you get to have the food. You get to work with the plant spirit. There's a magic and beauty to it. And you get to talk to the animals. You get to plant your own garden. There's a relationship with Mother Earth that comes through it as well that people miss because
yeah.
they feel like, well, I can do that on my own. Well, there's a lot of things we could do on our own, but you don't have to.
And that I can do it on my own is really a place of judgment.
Yeah.
Where is there
And
an
I've been there.
opening? uh, well, where is there an opening to experience and learn and be with? Because there is part of the work we do is doing our work and being with the medicine and being with the medicine and learning how to navigate the medicine. There's an important piece of doing your work. And also part of the work is holding the space. So there's so many pieces to this that there's always more to learn.
And I would say that the most important, because everyone wants to go to the retreat, they want to go to the fireworks show. And I'm like, really, the most important part of this is your integration process.
The 6 to 8 weeks after is an integration process, but really it's for
It's
a
for the
lifetime.
rest of your,
There's
yes.
a
Go,
couple
let's
weeks
talk
to a
about
month
this.
before we're going to come back to cannabis and mediumship. I just know it.
Okay.
Because I do want to talk about cannabis, but integration is so important.
Well, and integration's so important because even let's say someone came to you for a mediumship reading and you triggered something they didn't remember, or spirit came through with a certain message and it was life-changing leaving your sessions. And some of them, I have had clients who've been to you where it was that someone came through, it was exactly what they came for. Those are big emotional experiences. Even that could use integration time. Technically, it's not just plant medicine work and psychedelics that require integration. You would need, if you had gone to a
A
trip to
healing
India
session.
for a month and had that experience, integrating that into your life when you get back is what makes it stick and what makes you embody that at some point. So I definitely, whether it's cannabis, even a cannabis experience, there might be times we're working with cannabis and there are many times I get all kinds of ideas and then I forget it because I didn't intentionally integrate or write down or do the things you do with other medicines with cannabis as well. So no matter what we're talking about, integration has to come up.
Integration does come up. It's, there's a process before you go into a session, before you go into a journey, before you go into that, things are coming to your mind, processes are coming up, your emotions are coming up, awarenesses of memories, awarenesses of patterns start to come up. You go through the process of retreat, which is just half of the experience. And then for 6 to 8 weeks after, you're now putting puzzle pieces together, and you need help putting the puzzle together. And sometimes we can't see our own stuff. So it's like, I reached out to Chris recently and was like, because it helps us to process out loud what we're getting, so the other person can say, oh, let me help you with the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Healers need healers. It doesn't matter if you're
Absolutely.
new to this, if you think you've got it all on your own, or you're working with someone. Like, we all need help processing. We all need some type of connection. I like a lot of space to myself. I'm an introvert, extrovert, but actually
Me too. Me
I'm a
too.
processor out loud constantly.
Me
So
too.
it's really important, so that you're not then stuck in an old pattern and not seeing it.
Yes, there's so much rewiring that happens with the out loud processing too, There's so much that we don't remember in our experiences. There's times people tell me about their first night, and I'm like, oh my God, they don't even remember the aha moment. So I have to remind them.
Yeah.
And they go, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, what if I had not remembered that? You probably would have next week, but good thing we were here reflecting this back to each other, because that
Correct.
little nugget could float up into the ethers again. Psychedelic work doesn't fix everything, it can rewire, but
yes.
you are the medicine. We
Correct.
are the medicine. So before we end this discussion today, I'm glad we talked about integration, because I tell people, whether it's microdosing or a retreat experience, integration could account for 50% more results if we were to give it. If I was selling a product, 50% sounds actually less than what I would actually put it at. And that's because, what would you say that as Chiron archetypes, as shamans, we're gatekeepers, but we're almost introducing them to the plant spirits so that the plant spirits can introduce them to their higher selves? There's this like chain of command almost, or this place for everything.
Yeah, these plant medicines are going to connect you to your higher self, whether you're working with cacao, cannabis, Huachuma, psilocybin. There's so many out there. We could go on and on. You really want to set yourself up for success. Even when I'm working with cannabis, I want to know what I have, what the strain is, because
Yes.
you're going to activate, your indica is going to give you that relaxation, whereas your sativa is going to give you energy.
Yeah.
When you're going into these hybrids, you don't know which end's going to be up. Good luck.
Right.
And it's also okay to work with a hybrid. Actually, it'd be really cool in some of the places working with cannabis circles. I agree, they're really cool, that these are places that you can lean into how you're feeling in some of these hybrid places.
Yeah.
But the intention behind what you're using, the cacao, the cannabis, the blessing that you give it, even in your own, it is a ceremony. When I pick up my bowl and I'm like, okay, give me this for the highest and best good, because that's how I'm going to use it that day, or help me in meditation. I feel like the intention you put into it is so important, and how I integrate what I learned, whether I'm doing meditation, journaling, sitting with my cards, having a conversation with spirit back and forth in my head, walking, grounding in the yard. There are many integration tools, and also having someone that you're integrating with, setting yourself up for success in your space so that you're not alone, so that you have support, and remembering that not everything about dosing is correct on the internet. Don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. And for those who are just getting into plant medicine work and wanting to work with plant spirits, for many people, cannabis is a very powerful medicine. It has been for me. There's been times I have worked with cannabis, and I have felt so altered and so anxious and so out of my body and so strange. So it's been such an intense, scary experience for many that I've spoken to. So cannabis may not even be the greatest entryway, and I think it's a shame that it's being used as an alcohol alternative, but I also think that it's meant to be that way right now. It is our transition as a society out of alcohol into something else, which I think cannabis is a great door opener and gatekeeper into the world of plant medicine as well. I think that's where we're naturally shifting. But which medicine would you say for the average person to start with at home?
Yeah. If I were to say where to start, I honestly would tell you to start with cacao. I really
Um,
would.
so is there anything that a lot of people, there's no wrong way to use cacao, but there is a right way. And so should they set a ritual? Should there be, using it at home? Is there a specific way they should use it at home?
I recommend that you get 100% ceremonial grade cacao. It is grown with intention. It is grown and harvested and made with intention for ceremony. It is going to be organic. It's going to have come from a farm that is built in such a way that actually the air is so pure just to be on the land with the cacao trees and the cacao farm. That is such a high vibration already. And it is made with intention. You get it home, you make it, you cut it, even if you're getting the granules, put it in the cup and bless it with your intention. The hot water, bring in the cleansing energy of the water. May it steam and rise through your body. When you put in the sweetener, attract sweetness to my life. When I put in the cinnamon, we're calling in prosperity. So you call in intention with
Now,
each
this sounds a
ingredient.
little witchy. You wouldn't happen to be a
Yes.
witch, would you?
Yes. Like ceremony, intention, ritual with everything. It
I also want
feels
to
so important.
demystify and undemonize, if that's a word witch, So I love that you're a witch, and being a witch and using plant medicine seemed again like the next logical step. These are your potions, if you will.
And the cacao is one of my potions. Huachuma is one of my potions.
Yeah.
Cannabis actually is one of my potions. And
Yeah.
if you do want to learn how to work with cacao, I do have a free cacao ritual guide that you can download. I've sent the link to Chris. Thank you, Chris, for sharing that.
So this is a gift for our listeners and viewers. Beautiful. So
Absolutely. And
that
it
that
walks
link
you
for
through
the
the history. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no,
it'll
it's
walk
okay.
you through the history, how it's made so that you can learn about it before you work with it. So it's going to give you so much more than just a ritual, and it'll share where to buy it as well, how to get it,
Beautiful.
and how to build your own ritual behind it.
Thank you for offering that. So I'll put the link in the show notes below, and everyone, I'm sure they'll be able to find that on your website as well. This is on your website. Beautiful, and because there's a lot of people wanting to work with cacao and ceremony, but they don't have anywhere to go. They live in a smaller town. No one's offering it. So working with it at home and getting to know it first sounds great. This almost sounds like a guide that anyone could use before they go to their first ceremony. Because
Yeah.
ceremony in itself, if you've never done that, is its own art form, being in a community like that. So that is amazing. Thank you for offering that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on today.
You're very
And
welcome.
I want to add
Yeah.
medium, medicine woman, shaman, intuitive, healer.
And
They
see,
are all connections between the seen and the unseen.
that's the shaman. See, there's a lot of controversy around the word shaman, especially you and I being Caucasian. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and so calling ourselves shamanic practitioners, whatever the case may be, shamanic healer, all that's great. But I'm going to just say this on the record. You're a shaman,
Mhm.
okay? Because there's been many lifetimes in which you've done this work as one of those indigenous people, I'm sure. Okay, I can feel that. There was a remembering happening. But regardless, we are at a time in the ascension and awakening process where we're all supposed to step up into our own Chiron energy and become our own shamans, if you will. But there are people, everything you just described goes hand in hand under that one word or that one idea, like Chiron or Chironic healer is what I call it, which is a little bit just a branch off of a shamanic healer. Okay, so I being all the work that you do really encompasses that. So it was almost like no matter what the rules are right now, whatever the politically correct thing to say is, it is what it is.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. Thank you for that honor. Thank you,
oh,
really.
well, you're welcome. Of course, it's true. So, and I think people can feel that. And I've sat with you in ceremony, and there is something very raw and organic and in the moment and indigenous happening that feels channeled, and it also feels like everything was leading up to that anyway.
Mm,
Uh-huh. So,
thank you.
yeah. Um, Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you want to share with us today?
Oh, thank
Because
you
I'm going to
for
have you back on for sure. We're going to have her back on, but because this we really just scratched the surface of some
Oh
things,
my
and I
gosh.
really am so glad that we talked about medicine in this way because these are a lot of questions that people have.
Yes, absolutely. Please feel free to access the cacao guide. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I have a couple of retreats coming up this year. I lead
Yeah, tell us
cacao
about when they
ceremony.
are. Tell us about when your retreats are
Great.
and what you're
This
offering.
Great. The Sacred Wild Retreat is coming up June 23rd through the 25th. The Sacred Presence Retreat is in Santa Fe, September 22nd through the 25th, and we will be working with Huachuma fully in that retreat.
Beautiful.
Super excited. I lead cacao ceremonies every month. Typically, every month in Louisville, I'm going to be in Jacksonville, Florida, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I have those every month and enjoy leading those. And I work one-on-one on sessions, whether it's virtually or in person. I lead cacao ceremonies for you, whether it's one-on-one in a small group, leading sessions to give you guidance, to offer healing. And I offer one-on-one ceremonies for plant medicine as well. And it's a blessing. It's an honor to be able to witness and hold space. I feel honored.
Well, I feel honored to have you because you're one of the people, you're one of my mentors. So, for anyone listening, this is someone who has kind of led the way, or the first person to walk into the haunted house is usually the one who gets the cobwebs in their face,
Oh, shit.
and encounters the ghouls and goblins first. So there were quite a few cobwebs that I was able to avoid thanks to you. And I really appreciate that. And so it has been an honor to have you here as well. Can you tell everyone where to find you, what your socials are, a website, all that kind of good stuff?
Yes, you can find me at thejessicatanselle.com. My TikTok, my Instagram, and my Facebook are at the Jessica Tanselle. And I look forward to connecting.
I also belong to a Facebook group called the
Oh, the
Intuitive
Intuitive
Witch.
Witch
I'm
Tribe.
just saying,
Oh,
if people,
yes.
a lot of people do need a community right now. So there are communities like that that are built for light workers, star seeds, witches, shadow workers, healers, witches. Okay. I mean, this word witch, before we go, has really,
Yeah.
it's so, there's such a tiny, minute way people are looking at it. And it's light workers are witches, shadow workers are witches, star seeds,
Shamans are
shamans
witches,
are
y'all.
witches.
Shamans are witches too. Like it's all this, it's a vibration of this healer, right?
It's magic.
Yes, the Intuitive Witch Tribe is actually a really great space. I've got my free tarot lesson in there. I share what I've got
Oh,
coming up in there.
cool.
And also, everybody shares their events coming up or their information. So it's a great place to learn and share. And you can find that you search the Intuitive Witch Tribe, and I'll make sure Chris has that link too.
Yes, so everyone head over to thejessicatanzelle.com. Follow her on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok at thejessicatanzelle. All of these links will be listed in the show notes below. Thank you so much. I love you so much, and I appreciate you being here with me. Everyone, you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time here on Chronicles of Chyron.